That was me hitting the ball to you, Mark.
So we're going to kick things off. Okay. Well, good. Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining this morning. As Kim alluded, we've got a good agenda here and anxious to get started 4 minutes after the hour. So I'll go ahead and introduce myself. I'm Mark Etheridge with Ascent Housing, co-chair of this committee, and I'll ask my co-chair and other committee members to introduce themselves.
I do want to make sure we don't have any city council members either at the government center or with us virtually. And if that's not the case, then I'm Kim Graham. I'm with Greater Charlotte Apartment Association, and I co-chair this committee with Mark.
Good morning, Beverly McClooney with SL Nussbaum Realty.
Good morning, Stephanie Moore Hand, community with the United Methodist Church.
Phil, you might be muted.
Yes, sorry. Phil Tegler with the Poverty and Race Research Action Council.
Fulton. Oh, look, Clay is on now. So Clay, we'll pick you up. We were just doing introductions, so you got on at the right time. I think you're muted.
Sorry, I was a few minutes late. Good morning, it's Clay Grubb with Grubb Properties. I'm actually on the West Coast, so it's still a little early here.
Good morning, Fulton Meacham and Livian.
Good morning, Kimberly Cole and Livian.
Sean Heath, City of Charlotte.
Pamela Weidman, City of Charlotte.
Good morning, Rebecca Hefner, City of Charlotte.
I think that's everybody.
Great. So thank you again, everyone, for being here. We're going to move right into our main agenda item today, which is a discussion of the City of Charlotte's housing initiatives. Pam's going to provide an overview of those and some context on how they relate to the work of this committee. So with that, I'll ask Pam to go ahead and move forward with her presentation.
Good morning, everybody. Thank you all for your continued dedication and time committed to this work. You all have been meeting for, I believe it's about 6 months now. We're nearing the end. You've heard from lots of public speakers. And so what we wanted to do as you transition today and continue to think about what your recommendations are, we wanted to make sure that everybody, that we did some level setting and just two instances, remind people of what the charge of this committee is. And the charge of this committee is to expand the use of rental subsidy, all forms of rental subsidies in our community, certainly including the housing choice voucher. You've heard from Livian, you've heard from several other of our voucher partners, if you will, about how they are using vouchers in this community. And so what I want to do is just spend a brief portion of the time today to really make sure that we all have a shared understanding of how the City of Charlotte is helping, and I emphasize helping because the city can't do it along, to create housing opportunities for Charlotte residents. So what I want to do is I want to go through some of our programs with you so that you have this knowledge as you continue your work today. So Harold, if you'll go to the next slide for me. In 2018, the City Council approved a Housing Charlotte framework. That framework, there were several core considerations. It was about increasing capacity to serve households earning 80% and below the area median income, with an emphasis on those households earning 60% and below. We want to serve households that are vulnerable to displacement. We want to build in high opportunity areas, and our community partners are critical. We cannot do this without our community partners. Next slide for me, please. That framework is then built on three principles or three pillars, as I like to call them. It's expansion, and so that's continuing to build new construction that we do with our partners, largely in concert with our federal funds and our Housing Trust Fund. I'll spend a little time on both of those as we go through this. We know that we're not going to build our way out of this, so preservation is especially important, and that preservation is one of the surest ways to avoid anti-displacement, or said another way, to help people remain in place. And then we want to support family self-sufficiency, and we do that largely through creating home ownership opportunities. We know that that is still one of the best ways to build wealth in our country. So those are our three pillars: building new, expansion, preservation, and supporting family self-sufficiency. We do that work by working across a continuum, though, of the housing. We work across the housing continuum. So new construction, preservation, rehabilitation, rental and relocation assistance, and homeless support. So what I want to do is just want to talk to you about several of our programs, and then talk to you about, give you some data on our FY21 outcomes particularly. And so across our continuum of all of our housing initiatives, we've assisted approximately 9,500 people in FY21 to the tune of about $31.2 million. And again, that is across our housing continuum. Harold, if you go to the next slide for me, please. So let's just talk about home ownership first. We have a couple of home ownership programs. The primary one we use is our House Charlotte Down Payment Assistance Program. That's open to all Charlotte households, and it goes up to households earning 110% of the area median income. We provide down payment assistance it's primarily from a federal source. A little bit of local dollars are in there, to the tune anywhere between $7,500 up to $17,000 for down payment assistance. That's really important because that begins to help households have an affordable mortgage. Depending on where you are on the spectrum, you can get a 5, 10, or 15-year forgivable loan. This year in FY21, we've made 248 loans to the tune of about $1.9 million. And then not only, one of the important things about the House Charlotte Home Ownership Program is not only are people receiving the down payment assistance, but it is mandatory that you go through pre-home ownership counseling. And that's really, really important because buying a house is a big deal, and so people need to understand what the responsibility of that is. And so they do that with a HUD certified home ownership counselor. And just an antidote, that's worked really, really well over the years. In the economic downturn of I think it was 2008, 9, and 10, we saw that people who had gone through the House Charlotte program, they were able to hang on to their homes when many people were losing their homes because they had an appropriate mortgage, they had appropriate savings, they understood what they were getting into as a result of going through that housing counseling. Just some other facts about the home ownership program. The maximum sales price for new construction is $300,000, and then the existing for an existing home is $245,000. Let me acknowledge that we understand as a city and as a housing staff that there are very few homes in our supply right now because of the way Charlotte is growing at those price ranges. And so we are considering adjusting those price ranges so that they're more in line with our market now. So I just want to acknowledge that. Just a few more points of data. In FY20, we did 279 loans, and in the first quarter of FY22, we've done 37 loans. So remember, this is fiscal year, not calendar year. If you'll go to the next slide for me, Harold, another home ownership program that we have, again, we're always looking to add new tools to our toolboxes. is we have a partnership with the Federal Home Loan Bank of Atlanta. You may have heard the term the missing middle housing. This product helps us address kind of that missing middle. We're able to serve households earning between 80% and 120% of the area median income. These are not the City of Charlotte's rules. This is a partnership with the Federal Home Loan Bank. So this is their guidelines. They really want to address that missing middle. They want to help cities address that missing middle. Households who are eligible for this program can get up to $30,000 of a forgivable down payment assistance loan after 10 years. For FY21, we've made 31 loans through this program, and they can leverage this with the House Charlotte program in some cases. When we first started this, it's intentionally named Community Heroes. And when we first started it, the people who qualified, those heroes, were considered police, fire, first responders, school teacher, and healthcare workers. What COVID taught us is that our heroes are not only those persons or occupations that I mentioned, but they quickly became grocery and pharmacy workers. They became supply chain workers, and so we've expanded the folks who are eligible to receive this down payment assistance loan. If you'll go to the next slide for me, please. So that one more tool, another tool that we have in our home ownership, and again, we know that our community is changing. We know that gentrification is occurring. And so what the city council did several budget cycles ago was a new program. It's called the Homeownership Acquisition, Rehabilitation, and Resale Program, and it's intentionally named that. What we're able to do through that program is we partnered with Habitat for Humanity and a company, Red Cedar, and what we're able to do is help them acquire for sale single-family homes that are in need of repair. We do the rehab work on those, and then those through Habitat and Red Cedar, those homes are put back in the market for affordable homes after the repairs are completed, and they're sold to households earning 80% and below the area median income. For FY 2021, 3 homes have been completed and sold to homeowners. 15 units are currently under construction. Next slide for me. So Housing Trust Fund, I'm going to slow down and spend a little bit of time here because this is really important. And many of you know about the Housing Trust Fund, but just as a reminder, it is one of our 3 bonds. We have a transportation bond, a neighborhood bond, and a housing bond. For many years, we do this every other year. When you go to vote, you choose to vote on these. And for many years, we only had 15 to 20 million every other year, and we quickly knew that we were losing the fight if we were trying to address the affordable housing crisis with 15 to 20 million. So mayor and city council and our private sector leveraged the Leading on Opportunity report that you've heard a lot about, and the community. We couldn't have done this without the community, was to increase that bond from 15 to 20 every other year to 50 million every other year. And the private sector came along to match that. So since 2018, I believe it is, we've been working with $150 million in our trust fund to address our affordable housing issue, and we're poised to do $50 million again for our next bond cycle. These funds are used to, this city investment is used to leverage private sector and other state funding and other private sector dollars out there. We release a joint RFP twice per year to developers. They receive Housing Trust Fund. Tied to that trust fund is a long-term deed restriction. It's generally 30 years. We have some that are in higher opportunity areas that are more than 30 years, which is a great thing. Through this program, developers build multifamily and single-family homes to assist households earning 80% and below. One of the requirements is that a minimum of 20% of the units built through this program in each development have to serve households earning 30% and below the area median income. And then 10% of those units are targeted to households with rental subsidies. So that's very important to this conversation. So just to give you just a little bit more data, since 2018, 4,837 units have been created through this, to the tune of about $87.6 million in housing trust fund dollars. So if you'll go to the next slide for me, please. Yeah, I'm sorry. So this is a little bit about what we've achieved. 4,837 units have been financed. You can see how those break down. 156 newly constructed units have come online in the last 6 months. So we know we've been in COVID, but the point is here, we are still getting units coming online in spite of COVID. Just another point of data, this gets back to the 20% at 30%. 35 of that 156 are for households earning 30% of the area median income. And we have, you'll see at the bottom, this is really important, we have about a little over 3,000 units in the pipeline that will be coming online for construction. So let me pause here and say one really important thing. All of these developments have to accept rental subsidies. Whatever rental subsidies they're out there, they have to accept rental subsidies. That's in the grant agreement. The affordable developers, they understand that, and so these that have come online and these that will be coming online they have to accept rental subsidies. So as you're thinking about your recommendations, as you're parsing your data, understanding how many subsidies that are out there that are unused, just know that you have a little over 3,000 that are coming online that will have to accept rental subsidies. So that's good news. That will help address the issue that you guys have been very diligently spending time on over the last 6 months. If you go to the next slide for me, please. I talked about preservation a little bit earlier, and this is so important. The council approved naturally occurring affordable housing policy guidelines. And this really, again, is one of the best displacement tools that we have going on in the city. What this helps us do is this helps us work with developers to acquire and to rehab existing market rate units that and preserve those rents at an affordable level, 80% and below. So the majority of the rents, it maintains the majority of the rents at 80% and below. Funding is prioritized for units that are 60% and below. And then 10% of the units available have to be available to households earning 30% who have vouchers. Again, we have deed restrictions on these for at least 15 years. And as I said, it limits displacement. The guidelines for this program were approved in March of 2019. If you go to the next slide for me, please. Spend a little time on rental assistance, if you'll go to the next slide. So rental assistance, not only do we have the NOAA program where through the Housing Trust Fund, we work with developers to acquire these properties and to rehab those, council went a little bit further and created an additional rental assistance program. So basically what this program does is it creates additional long-term rental subsidies for households earning 30% and below. So these are households who may not have any type of voucher, because we know that no matter what voucher source it is, there's not enough vouchers in this community to address our challenge, right? HUD isn't sending any new vouchers other than what they've sent through the emergency through COVID into this community. So we thought about, again, this is about adding new tools to the toolbox. How could we create a local subsidy program? Council approved this program last Monday night, I believe it was. I think that's right, last Monday night. But basically, this is a partnership with the county. We create a local subsidy through reimbursement of the property tax. And so NOAA owners provide a 20-year minimum long-term deed restriction. They commit to provide 20% of all the units to households earning 30%. They too accept rental subsidies in addition to creating that local subsidy. And again, the beauty of it is this is done over time, so current residents are not displaced. And just for FY21, this is a new program, but to date, 22 local rental subsidies have been created. let's see, if you go to the next slide for me. So that was a little bit about how we work, how we use our housing trust fund. So we create new units, we help preserve, we have our local rental subsidy. Now I want to talk a little bit about how we use some of our federal funds. So we do tenant-based rental assistance. That's a temporary rental assistance for households earning 60% and below the area median income. You can see our outcomes for FY21. We've assisted 50 households to the tune of about $428,000. Some of our partners that we work with through this are Charlotte Family Housing, whom you heard for, Supportive Housing Communities, and Salvation Army. So this is a really great program that helps them get people out of the shelters and into homes. So that's in 21. We've done this for many years, and so it continues to work well. We also work, in addition to that, we work with Crisis Assistance Ministry to do emergency rent and utility assistance. In FY21, we've assisted over 1,000 households here, and you can see the dollars that we've spent on the program. Again, we do this year after year. These are programs that we don't often talk about, but I wanted to make sure that you all understood this as you were going off to make your recommendations. If you'll go to the next program for me, HOPWA, this is another federal program that we get as a city. It is housing for persons with AIDS and HIV. Largely what we do with this funding is we help individuals who are living with AIDS and HIV find housing, tenant-based rental assistance, and supportive services. And so you can see our outcomes there for FY21, 648 individuals assisted to the tune of about $2.5 million. Next slide for me, please. And go ahead and go to the next slide for me, please, Harold. Also, Safe Home Rehabilitation. This is another anti-displacement tool, if you will, that we have in our toolbox. Basically, our largest clients here are seniors. This helps seniors stay in their homes. We offer rehab assistance for low-income residents through a deferred zero-interest forgivable loan. You can see our outcomes there. What we see a lot is repairs to bathrooms, repairs to doors to help people be able to age in place, stay in their homes. And we see a lot of this along our corridors of opportunity. So this program works really well. Again, it's federally funded. What we were able to add another tool to our toolbox in this program, I think it was 2 years ago, as a result of a gift from Lowe's. They gave us $1.3 million to assist residents along the Beatty's Road corridor. And you can see we had a little bit of a slowdown because of COVID. We've completed one household, and then we have 8 units in progress and more to come through this program. If you go to the next program, another rehab program, what we realized, so the difference between the Safe Home program and this program, TLC by CLT, the Safe Home program is kind of a one-off, right? So it wasn't holistic revitalization. So what we know is kind of that broken windows theory. If you do one house, you don't just want to do one house. You want to do a number of houses in a neighborhood or along a street so you can see some holistic improvement, holistic revitalization. So we started this program many years ago. We started with 2 neighborhoods. It was Historic Camp Green and Lincoln Heights. They were our initial focus. We were able to rehab a number of houses in these neighborhoods to help people remain in place, avoid displacement. We've pivoted over to Revolution Park and Washington Heights in 2018, and we're now working to add some new neighborhoods. So we've completed Historic Camp Green, we've completed Lincoln Heights. I believe we've completed Revolution Park and Washington Heights, and so we're working now, and you can see our outcomes for 21, and you can see the dollars spent. If you'll go to the next slide for me, please. Our Lead Safe program, when we go in to do a rehabilitation of our home, we want to address as much as we can. We want to layer programs. So when we go in to do rehab, we also test to see if there needs to be some lead removal. This is funded through a federal grant, Lead Safe Charlotte. So we want to make sure that we're removing lead-based paint in homes that were built prior to 1978. If you'll go to the next slide for me, we also have, and this is about staying in place too, for many years we've had an emergency repair program. This becomes really, really important in the wintertime. What we do a lot is we know that through federal funds, it's not an emergency by the time you have to meet all the eligible requirements. But this allows us to go in and quickly help someone alleviate an emergency. So like I said, what we see is a lot of heating system repairs in the winter, water heater repairs, or if a pipe breaks. We almost always spend all of the money in this program. You can see in FY21, we completed 94 units. We have 15 in progress, and you can see the dollars that we're using there. If you go to the next slide for me, please. Homeless support, I said at the beginning, that's a part of our continuum. That's a part of our work. Some of the ways we support the homeless work is through our Housing Trust Fund. We've done shelter beds. We do emergency rental and utility assistance with crisis assistance. You saw that earlier. We get another federal funding source. It's called Emergency Solutions Grant. That can only be used for our homeless work in this community. We have our Away Home Endowment. That is a partnership, Foundation for the Carolinas and the private sector. So Foundation for the Carolinas raised an endowment for us. The city matched it, and so that has also helped to provide a subsidy, if you will, for people to live in homes in high opportunity areas and to help them become self-sufficient. We received federal aid from COVID. I won't go into that. But just know that there's a lot of money out there that has been spent for rental assistance as a result of COVID. We've had several tranches. Not only are we spending for rental assistance, but there's utility assistance. So a lot of, we were able to assist a lot of families through that work. So just what you should know here is the city spent over $68 million in homeless support since 2018. If you go to the next slide for me, please. So what's next? You guys, again, have been meeting for 6 months. You've done a ton of work. You've heard from a lot of speakers. In the next 12 to 24 months, based on what we have in the pipeline, we'll have 3,392 rental units coming online. Again, you heard, I won't repeat it, but you heard that all of these have to accept rental subsidies. So that's going to help tremendously with the work and fill our gap. In November of 2021, actually next week, council will be asked to approve 3 more developments in our NOAA program. In December of 2021, you guys are going to come back here to this meeting, I hope, and present what your recommendations are for increasing the acceptance of all forms of rental subsidies, including housing choice vouchers. You're going to present that to at this committee and then to the city council. And in early 22 is where we hope to take back. We've heard you here, and we hope we see some of this in your work that's coming forward. We've heard the discussion about your thoughts around city council and what they should consider when they're looking at the rental subsidy requirements in city-supported housing. Again, I wanted to remind you that in any housing that's approved through the trust fund, people they already accept housing choice vouchers. So I know I've said a lot, but I wanted to provide you some data. I wanted to do some level setting as you go into your committees to begin to formulate your recommendations. So what we're going to do as a city staff, we're going to step back and we're going to let you all spend time as a committee working through your recommendations. With that, I'll stop and turn it back to Mark or Ken.
Yeah, thank you, Pam, for that presentation and comprehensive overview of the city's efforts. I do want to give the committee a couple minutes to ask if there's a question or two they want to ask. We'll do that before we take next steps.
I'll jump in just real quick on the down payment assistance programs. To me, it feels like one of the top issues today is appraisals. You know, the market is way outstripping what anything would appraise for today, just because it's so hot. And appraisals are rear view mirror looking, and what happens if somebody is trying to buy a home and it doesn't appraise? Is that a criteria that it has to appraise to participate in that program?
Clay, I think the answer is yes. I'm not as close to this. I have two people on my team who oversee the program. But let me get you an answer to that question. I don't want to tell you something that's not true, but I believe the answer is yes.
Okay, thank you.
On the, this is Phil. Thanks for that great presentation. When we look at, housing programs, rental housing programs, especially development programs that you went through, we always ask, two questions. One is, what's the distribution of units in terms of elderly versus families with children? And what's the, what are the locations of these developments in terms of the neighborhood poverty rates, et cetera? So if that information is available, especially for the larger of the programs you mentioned under the Housing Trust Fund, it would be great to know that at some point, just to get a sense of, where these units are being built and whether they're restricted for elderly, versus families with kids.
Yeah, Clay. I'm sorry, Phil. What I would say to that is the Housing Trust Fund units are a mix. You do have many senior developments, and you also have many family developments as well. There's a mix. What I would also say is that for many of these have been 9% low-income housing tax credit deals, and so they follow the guidelines of the QAP in terms of location. What I would say holistically, though, is in Charlotte, what we've struggled with is getting more of these in I'll just call it South Charlotte, right? In two council districts in South Charlotte. I will say, though, to give the city council credit, the city council has embraced not only the 9% tax credit program, but the 4% tax credit program. And through the 4% tax credit program, we have been able to get, we're starting to get more of these, both seniors and family, in areas of high opportunity. I'll just point out a few. There's one, Scaly Bark. It is along the Blue Line, 8th and Tryon, that is going to be in Uptown Charlotte. 7th Street, that is just out in Uptown Charlotte as well. There's a Ballantyne that is in an area of high opportunity. There's one Park Road that's newly funded. So we're starting to get these in areas of high opportunity, and we have a mix of seniors and family development. Not where we need to be in terms of locating in areas of high opportunity, but we are, over the past, I'll call it 5 years, making greater strides at doing so. And then to the previous question, Clay, about the appraisal, yes, the homes must appraise at a value the first mortgage lender is willing to base the loan on. So hope that answers both of those questions.
Good morning, Ms. Weidman. Thank you for your presentation, your very thorough presentation. I have two questions, and it was on slide number 9, which is the housing trust slide, where the last bullet point was 3,392 potentially rental units that are coming on the pipeline. Do you have a time frame of the graduation of that coming online? If you could speak to that, if you do. And then I'll go to the second question after that.
Sure, Dr. Moorhan, thank you for that. So yes, in the next 12 to 24 months, those units will be coming online. So it generally takes that amount of time to get through the construction.
Thank you. So the next 12 to 24 months, that number will be spread throughout our communities. Okay, the second question I have is really from slide number 9. It speaks to, and my question is, what is the gap between the need and what's presently on the table now, as far as the subsidies that are going out into community? You mentioned that there's a gap that's going to be filled, but I'm just curious as to what the present need is and what is the gap that you're filling.
Yeah, so let me make sure I'm articulating that correctly, Dr. Moorhan, and this has been the work of the committee, right? And this is where we need the committee. I think you guys could probably, I'm hoping that you guys can tell us kind of what the gap is or the need for unused subsidies through your work, right? I'm hoping that you guys can tell us we have X number of subsidies, with vouchers, whatever, that are not being used. And what I would hope is and I tend to keep things simple, is that we could then match those unused subsidies to these units that are coming online. So I don't have a good answer for you on what's the gap of unused subsidies, but I would hope, I'll turn that back to you all through your work with the committee and your data collection, that you guys either have that or are you going to be quickly getting that information. I don't know if that helps, but.
No, it does.
Okay.
It does. And so it comes back that that's something that is needed to get a greater understanding of the gap that's in our community.
Right. So what I hope you gleaned is that there are units coming online. There are not only units coming online, that units that are coming online that have to accept all forms of rental subsidy, that are willing to accept rental subsidies. And so how do you map or match those rental subsidies to the units that are coming online?
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Are there any more questions? Great. Well, with that, I'm going to ask that we take a 4-minute break, and then we will reconvene for our working session. So right now it's 10:40. If everyone wants to jump on around 10:44, just before 10:45, you feel free to turn your camera off, grab a drink of water, etc. We'll reconvene and return to our working session.
Mark, I'm sorry. I want to do one thing that I failed to do before I started presenting. I want to introduce a new member of my team who's here with us today, Rebecca Hefner. Rebecca is our deputy director, and she's going to be working alongside me in housing and neighborhood. So I'm thrilled to have her here, and I just wanted to make sure you all know who she is, and know her role.
Welcome, Rebecca. I've known her for a long time, so congratulations.
Thank you, Bart.
Great.